11 Uhr, wie immer am Mittwoch.
11 a.m. as usual on Wednesday. Welcome to DTP News. I would like to start today with a brief spotlight on one of the prevention programs that DTP is offering together with two other partners. It's about Communities That Care, CTC in short. CTC is a prevention framework strategy, a sort of guide on how municipalities and communities can independently implement evidence-based prevention locally and thus use the resources available to them as effectively as possible. This approach originated in the USA and was transferred to Germany as a pilot project by the Lower Saxony Prevention Council. It was successfully tested, and so that the question arose as to how this strategy could be rolled out at a national level. As a result, DTP, in cooperation with the Regional Prevention Council of Lower Saxony and DFK, the German Forum of Criminal Prevention, set up the CTC Transfer Office, which is based at DPC and supervised by Sven Kuprick. With the support of the Federal Ministry of Justice, DTP and the DFK then developed a CTC strategy to train the so-called regional multipliers in the federal states by 2024. These have the know-how about the individual needs and structures in their federal states and can then pass on the knowledge they have gained about the CTC strategy to the municipalities. If you want to learn more about CTC, please visit the website or come back to DPT-TV next week. On the 30th of November, there will be an online presentation on CTC and you will have the opportunity to talk with the speakers. We also want today to talk about child protection on the internet. And we've asked an expert in this field, Professor Thomas Gabriel Rüttiger, who is the head of the Institute for Cyber Criminology at the Brandenburg Police University. He told us what child protection in the digital space means to him. Child protection in the digital space in Germany is not only about protecting children in the digital space. It's about the question on how we as a society can support this routine activity and how we as security authorities have to position ourselves if we want to protect a space where society is present and with specific rules and regulations, and to protect people who feel at unease. So it's not only about protecting children, it's about creating a digital space where issues are maybe more than in the physical space, and we have to communicate as security authorities. In that case, also children and youth can profit, and so criminals may not feel at ease if they know that children and youth may report any cases to the police, and so that we can react on the perpetrators, and so the children know how to react. Thomas Rüttiger urges to invest in media literacy for pupils and to introduce it nationwide as a school subject from grade 1. So we have to be clear, in 2022, Germany still has no mandatory media literacy in schools, even though children in the first grade have a lot of smartphones and may have access to a global media space. They are exposed to hazards and risks, and so they have to know how to behave in this space. Usually we take for granted that parents do so, but they may have not the know-how, or they may not be willing to do so. So we need institutions, and this is the school that have to provide a media literacy. And this is also important for criminal prevention, and media literacy is the prerequisite to fight against criminals. So the more, the greater media literacy, the lower victimization is. And so that children can fight against crime, and fake news can be better recognized by children, and this means that also the safety and security authorities would have less work to perform. And then, of course, we have a massive increase in the number of children and youth that are suspects of perpetrating criminals. According to the statistics, more than perpetrators having to do with children pornography were children and young people. And so we have to educate these people, but they may not know that they can be pursued by law because they were not educated accordingly. So it is very important to recognize risky situations and to know how to behave. And so someone have to educate children and young people. So media literacy has to be provided starting from the first grade in Austria. So in Germany, in Austria, for example, it's a mandatory matter. Thomas Gabriel Rüdiger also looks into the future and makes clear why investing in media literacy is worthwhile under every aspect, but also why it is imperative to think across generations, because just as important and partly also prerequisite for media competent children are media competent adults. Media competent children and young people of today are media competent policemen, teachers, journalists, and politicians of the future. So the fitter they are, the less exposed they are to cyber attacks in companies, for example, and also in the authorities. So in the field of cybersecurity, we have to invest a lot. And we also have to consider that we should not only talk about children and young people, but also elderly. We also have to educate parents so that they are able to transfer this knowledge to their children. Thomas Gabriel Rüdiger also emphasizes the importance of good and effective digital prevention offers. But what options do children and young people actually have if an assault has already occurred? On the one hand, he argues for an increased responsibility and visible presence of security authorities in the digital space. On the other hand, he is in favor of a so-called children's online watch or supervisory authority to which children and younger people can turn directly online and get help. He now explains what he means by this and why it is so important. So thank you very much. And now, from the field of prevention, awareness raising and activation campaign against sexual violence. On the occasion of the European Day for the Protection of Children against Sexual Exploitation and Sexual Violence, the education and activation campaign Don't Push the Idea Away was recently launched. The message is that children and young people are at risk of sexual violence, especially in their own environment. Then radical attitudes among young people, social isolation and massive internet use have made vulnerable young people more susceptible to extreme ideas and violent tendencies. This is the conclusion of a study by the Center for Teacher Education at the University of Cologne. Strengthening the mental health of children and youth. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a particularly severe impact on the mental health of children and teenagers and has exacerbated social disparities. A new study by the German Youth Institute shows that we urgently need to invest in the mental health of children and young people. And with that, I say goodbye to you for the last but one time and leave you with the online lecture and project presentations on various prevention topics. I would be pleased if you would tune in again next Wednesday for the last DTP program. Bye and see you next Wednesday.